did live their dream in that way.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we are live. Welcome everyone to Coffee with Bridges. Today it's with Hannah. We have Shantae from Mudbone Grown. Welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. You just said it's Friday. It is definitely feeling like a Friday. How have you been holding up this week?
Just really kind of taking it easy on the farm. It's been really rainy and just kind of easing into the week with, you know, just cleaning up around the farm, prepping for winter time. So spending some much needed family time and cooking and hanging out.
That's awesome. Well, Shantae, what is Mudbone Grown?
So Mudbone Grown is a Black agricultural business that Art, my partner and I started probably about 5 years ago. And we both stepped away from different jobs. I was in public health, working as a nutrition policy specialist and doula, breastfeeding peer counselor, and Art was kind of a jack of all trades. But Mudbone Grown is basically a farm business.
And I was watching your video on your website this morning with my partner, and we were just kind of dreaming about how amazing the courage you and your partner had to just say, you know what, we're doing this. We're gonna quit our jobs. We're gonna actually invest in all of this space, this land, this time, this learning. Um, and how incredible is that you've grown this collective, this business, this community?
Yeah, we first started off at Arbor Lodge Urban Farm off of Rosa Parks Way on about an acre. And at that time, our friends were traveling to Bali and they said, take over this space. And we knew that we only had maybe a year to really be on that particular farm site. And kind of how our name Mudbone Grown came to be was Arthur grew up in Northeast Portland, and he was this country kid in the city. And one of his good friends, James, said that, used to call him Mudbone. And so that same friend came to our first farm and was like, this is Mudbone Grown. And we were like, okay, that's perfect. We were just trying to figure out like what our business name was going to be at the time. Um, and so that was really kind of our beginning. And we were hearing a lot from the community that they wanted to have a place to be able to grow food. Actually, some of our principal at our kids' school was interested in doing farm visits just as we were getting into farming. So it was just kind of a win-win. And later on, we were able to connect to the Oregon Food Bank and grow food. Started off growing food on about an acre there, and from there we just started kind of activating the space. Um, Previously, there was just a lot of retired folks that would go and volunteer at the Oregon Food Bank farm, but the Oregon Food Bank farm had been there for probably about 10 years, and they had many volunteers come through. But with that first season, we had probably more than 1,200 volunteers come and help us out on that farm. And we did a 20-member CSA with Zinger Farms as part of a partnership for health, kind of a food prescription program. So that's how we kind of started just dipping our toes into farming and growing food for community.
And what an amazing turnout of people who said, not only do we want to participate in this community, but we need this food. We want to be part of this collective or this effort to really bring fresh produce farming connection to land to folks in Portland and Northeast Portland in particular.
Yeah, it was a really exciting time for us because we were just like surprised that so many people were into the same thing that we were into, and wanted to support. And so, it was really great that we had the support of Christine Haddicle at the Oregon Food Bank that connected us to Zinger for our first year. To be able to do CSA is really what some farmers would call crazy to jump right into doing this community supported agriculture program for families in Coley. But um, we were just really passionate about it and really loved it. We kind of dived into more community work that way.
I mean, I think it's so amazing, and I'm so interested to learn about the aspects of your programming and all that you do at Mudbone Grown, and really how that all is centered around equity and anti-racism and providing nourishment and connection to communities who need that connection, and maybe haven't had that connection in a long time.
Yeah, a lot of our work, I would say, is really focused around growing food, community health, Black wealth, and using cultural resilience as a tool and strategy for placemaking. And so we kind of work within these intersections of this work. Excuse me one sec. Can you go over there, please? So, you know, when we first started off, we did go through Oregon State University's Beginning Urban Farmer Apprenticeship Program. And we were the only people of color in that program, but we knew that we really wanted to farm, basically just to grow food for our family starting off as homesteading. But as time grew, we realized that there was this great need and desire for people to want to return back to the land. With that program, there was a cost associated with it. And we worked Craigslist jobs to be able to like make ends meet. Arthur and I have 6 children. And so we're both Portland natives and wanted to pass on that love of nature and just love of nature and growing things and homesteading to our children first. And then it blossomed into this beautiful thing. So we created the Beginning Farmers of Color training program to be able to train other BIPOC farmers with the help of the Oregon Food Bank and apply for a USDA grant. We had more than 100 people apply for positions, stipended positions. And we connected them to other, community members in the agricultural industry. We had support from Oregon State University, from Rogue Farm Corps, and we're able to take, tours and workshops and connect people in that way. And so that was a pilot program. And then we moved on to the Boots to Roots program, working with the local VA and training veterans on how to farm. And so we've been that was probably, I think, maybe 2 years ago. And that was the Boots to Roots program. And then lastly, we're in our third program called Pathways to Farming, which supports BIPOC producers in creating their agricultural businesses and programming. And so we've had about 14 different BIPOC producers participate in that 3-year program, and we're in our 3rd year. And many of you have probably seen many of the farmers from Pathways program doing amazing things out there. They're herbalists and they're doing CSAs themselves with their own agricultural businesses and creating markets like the Come Through Market at the Red. And we're quite involved in agriculture and have a real passion and desire to create this pipeline into agriculture for Black farmers and food system thought leaders.
That is so incredible. And I think it just goes back to, you saying earlier, how would you have known at the beginning that all of these people in this community would have been so interested in also doing and learning from you and being partners with you? And that just says the need to not only connect to the land, but have fresh produce, grow Black wealth, and generational wealth in general is so important. And you've really been a steward to what that means in the Portland community.
Well, thank you. I mean, I can honestly say that I did not get here alone, that there's been a lot of community members that have supported us over time. And, folks from Black Community of Portland and Black Food Sovereignty Coalition and Oregon Food Bank and Oregon State University, some of our partners, Black Parent Initiative has supported us in the beginning. So, we wouldn't be able to do this work without the support and help of our community And I really honestly think that there's always been a lot of different Black, Indigenous, and POC producers and healers and growers in our community. We're just now starting to see more of them come back to the surface and reactivate communities to return back to the land. And so, in specifically here in Oregon, with a lot of the exclusion laws and things that have happened over time, it really, that is one of the main reasons why we don't see, less you want to say, that's why we don't see a lot of Black farmers here in Oregon because of the exclusion law. And because of the Oregon Donation Land Act. And so when we're asking the question, why aren't there more Black farmers in Oregon? It's because of some of the policies and systematic racism that's taken place in Oregon to kind of to create these barriers for folks that are real. And so it is very hard for beginning farmers to get into ag. It takes a lot of capital, but it's even more harder for Black, Indigenous, POC people to get into agriculture. So I'm very excited about the current movement around ag, and I'm seeing all of the great work of everybody.
I think that's so important to talk about the exclusion of BIPOC communities and continue to highlight what you said earlier about the cultural resilience that's already in the community. That doesn't mean the community wasn't practicing ag and healing properties and production in general. It just maybe wasn't as visible and there wasn't as much access. And so it just sounds so cool and inspiring to support a space where community members can come together and practice cultural resilience in a way that most maybe people aren't automatically thinking, wow, this is a part of healing.
Yeah, I mean, land is really important, and land and food. And so we build community around food. And so I think just starting there and be able to create food sovereignty and food security for communities of color, and specifically for the Black community, is really important to our work because it's a basic need. And so we really need to be focusing on the local food system and how to support local BIPOC producers and makers and food entrepreneurs, because it's going to make a world of a difference around food access if there's any kind of natural disasters, those kind of things. So, just looking at COVID, for instance, and what we've experienced these past couple months, at Mudbone, we did not really receive any kind of COVID response funding. So in agriculture, there was all this funding that was given to bigger producers. And so a lot of Black, Indigenous, POC producers were not able to access that. And, we've seen so many businesses shut down during COVID. We had many requests from different community-based organizations asking us to grow, huge amounts of food, like 400, being able to serve 400 families in 1 week. And what we learned from that was that, okay, in April, no, we're not able to provide that amount of food on a weekly basis. We're smaller producers, but that we didn't have the necessary infrastructure that we needed to be able to scale up to that level. And that's the case for many BIPOC producers. So a lot of folks were getting these requests and weren't able to meet that because they didn't have the necessary tools that they needed to be able to produce, or also be able to pay for labor costs during that time. So with all that being said, we were still able to figure out how to serve our communities on a smaller scale. We worked with Beyond Black on a Black COVID response team in Multnomah County Health Department to serve around 80 families for 80 weeks with a free CSA. And we were able to do that with support from the Oregon Food Bank, with a donation from them, to be able to give also household items along with food from our farm. And then, we've also done smaller CSAs We did a 4-week CSA with Life Change Church, serving Black elders, because a lot of times our elders are going unserved and unnoticed. They can't get out of the house as often. And then recently we did a 4-week CSA for Black families and single folks. And so that was really, all of that was free, and that was just from donations that we got from the community to be able to support others. So it's really our joy to be able to serve in that way. Just as many of you guys are, I'm sure you're dealing with kids and school.
Kids in the home.
Can you go in there, please? I just need to finish. Or be a little bit more quiet. Sorry, sorry about that. But yeah, during COVID, what we saw was a lot like Beyond Black and a lot of our other Black organizations were really able to pull together to support the community. And I've seen that across the board with Black Food Sovereignty Coalition, Black Community of Portland, and other Black organizations like the Black Resilience Fund and things like that that have really stepped up to the plate and helped community. And so, you know, I'm excited that, you know, even though amongst all of the craziness that we've experienced this year, we've been able to support having more Black farmers on our farm. And we really have a great team of 6 Black farmers that are supporting us and helping to get that food out to community, because we wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
I mean, I think it's so important to note that you are continuing to provide service to the most impacted community members that we have in the midst of a global pandemic and a year in which equity has really been brought to the forefront around our social consciousness, and you've been able to, you and your team and your community in general has been able to really navigate not only, you know, maybe not being able to scale up rapidly, but providing really creative solutions to supporting folks and you know, just thinking about providing produce and food to elders. How amazing and how healing is that to be able to be in that position to support community? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Life Change Church specifically, we were able to work with the outreach team, and that was really helpful because they were able to do deliveries to some of the elders, and they were really thankful for that extra support. Art and I lost our grandparents when we first started getting into this work, and we both had been raised in the church, and so we thought it was important to go back to that space and support as much as we can.
I think that's so amazing. How have people been able to be involved from a volunteer perspective during COVID? Have you seen a major impact with community involvement where, you know, people say, I really want to be stewards of the land with you all, I want to be involved, but I'm not necessarily sure how COVID impacts that? What can people do if they want to participate with you?
Yeah, we haven't been able to have as many volunteers on farm due to COVID, but I know that we have had different volunteer opportunities along the way. And so what that looks like is, excuse me, just one moment.
It's a Friday with kids at home. We totally get it.
Yes, sorry. So what that looks like is that we've had like a few volunteers on farm here and there, but we also have our volunteer shifts with the Pathways to Farming program at the Oregon Food Bank. And so we'll be having another volunteer shift come up, I think on November 11th, if folks would like to participate in that. Of course, you know, people could always support with small or large donations if they'd like to do that, if they can't get out. But there'll be other opportunities to even donate, to donate different things whatever people feel like doing. We really appreciate it. So, for instance, we're going to be working on thanks holiday boxes at the end of this month and putting together hopefully about maybe 200 of them for the Black community, working with Highland Haven Christian Center, and that will be serving Black elders as well. And then we'll be working at Levin, which is in Northeast. It's another church. So we'll do 100 on a Saturday at the end of this month, and 100 on a Sunday. And so we're looking for grocery items that we can put into the boxes. We'll be harvesting lots of food from our farm. And so I know that I probably didn't mention that all the different farm sites that we operate out of, but we we were growing at the Oregon Food Bank, but we've now passed that on to our Pathways to Farming farmers. And so they operate on a 50 by 80 plot there, but we're out in Corbett, Oregon on about 19 acres, which half of that is forested, but we grow food on probably about close to 7 acres. And we also share the space, with other Pathways farmers as well. It's really important to us with people not having access to land that we're constantly being aware of sharing resources and sharing the land with other people that might not have access to the same opportunities that we've had.
That is so amazing. And it sounds like you've got a lot of work to do over the next couple of weeks with holiday boxes going out. So people, if you can donate, please do that. Can we talk about the Give Guide? Speaking of donations, because it sounds like this is your first year at the Give Guide. What is that going to look like for Mudbone Grown? What do you need? How can people get involved? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, you can get involved by signing up for our newsletter on our webpage at mudbonegrown.com. With the Give Guide donations, what we're looking at is raising close to $60,000 so that we can continue to pay our wonderful Black farmers that we have on farm and give them hours. We want to be able to do that throughout the season. But we're also looking to add new programming specifically focused on Black youth and Indigenous youth that are impacted by the criminal justice system. And so next year, we're looking at launching a program that's focused on commercial greenhouse management training. Another portion of our work is around aquaponics. And so we have an aquaponics set up here in Corbett that will be activating and be doing training for youth. And we're also looking to do some advocacy around getting youth more involved in advocating around the criminal justice system. And so donations from the Give Guide will go towards programming and helping to pay for stipends for that youth, because we want youth to be able to have jobs. And so we're really working around green workforce development and also supporting other Black farmers like ourselves, to pay for their time in supporting our work so that we can continue to serve the community. So this is kind of like our last push to be able to make plans for the next year. Farmers are always patching and putting things together and always planning for the next season. And we need to have some funds to start off to be able to pay for staffing costs right out the gate. So any donation, small or large, is really helpful. And right now, I believe the first 50 people that are able to donate $100 will get a bag, a Mudbone bag from us.
That is so cool. And it sounds like people can sign up for your newsletter on your website. The first 50 people to donate $100 will get a Mudbone Grown bag. And paying for labor for folks is a huge equity issue. So we want to make sure that your folks are able to be paid for their time and their labor and their work. And because this work is so important, the programming that you were talking about is incredible. So if you, community members, if you want to get involved and you are passionate about this work and the scope of work, donate. So important.
Yes, any donation, like I said, large or small, is really helpful. It's pretty easy just to click on, to look up the Give Guide, go to the community section, and you'll find us there to support. Like I said, we really appreciate the support over the summer. We're just looking to get additional support for this last push for the year, and are really excited for the next season. And we're going to be doing even more free CSAs to Black community members. And it's a way that you could support farmers directly. There's no middleman at all. It's just farmer to family support.
It's incredible. Shantae, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think is super important before we end today?
No, I think that's really it. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on today, and really appreciate everybody's support in advance. Please check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We're working with other Black community members around a Black food fund and a Black Oregon land trust. Some new initiatives that we'll be launching soon in the next year. So we're always up to something and advocating and supporting our community and forward thinking about ways to create Black food security while supporting other Black farmers. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much. And everyone, please check out Mudbone Grown, their website, sign up for the newsletter, donate. This is the Give Guide. Time is now. Amazing programming coming up over the next year, and we want to absolutely support that. Thank you, Shantae. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.